Hola, bienvenidos. How is everybody doing today? You guys might recognize my guest today because I know a lot of you follow Gringos R Us. So with me today, I have Gina and Mark. If you're new around here and you don't know why this video popped up, this is Mexico Relocation Guide, a video or a channel that shows you how to move to Mexico the right way. And Gina and Mark also put out a lot of really great information on living and moving to Mexico, particularly Queretaro. So I highly recommend you go follow their page and their channel, Gringos R Us. It's in the description of this video, and I'll also link it in the comments. That way you guys can go directly. Before we get started, I'd love to know where you're watching us from. So if you've never live chatted before, please live chat and let us know where you are watching us from. There should be a button that says live chat if you don't know what I'm talking about. If you're on your phone, it's a little icon with like a little square. If you're on your PC or your computer or your iPad, it should automatically show up. If not, look for the live chat button. Thanks for being here from Ontario, Canada.
Ooh.
Calgary, thanks so much for being here. We've had a lot of Canadian people recently watch our channel. How about you guys, Gina and Mark?
Yeah. We have some Canadians. Unfortunately, we know so little about some of the important details from Canada with regard to moving that we really can't answer and speak to
Yeah,
those things. But we do still have people who watch.
yeah. Um, we do have a little bit of information in our online guide pertaining to Canadians, but because the online guide is just really for any foreigner who speaks English moving to Mexico, it really does apply to anybody. It's so weird though, like having grown up in the United States, we learn so little about our neighbors up north, right? Like, at least that's in my experience. Or down south. Yeah. Well, for me that was different. Like I also grew up in Mexico, but yeah, it's the same. Like in history, they don't really teach us anything about Mexico or Canada.
No, the United States is very insular.
Yeah,
So.
very like just self-involved.
Mhm.
Thanks so much for being here, you guys. A lot of people are popping in. Another person in Canada. You have some fans. Terry here is excited to see you guys today.
Hi,
Uh,
Terry.
That's Harley.
St. Pete, Florida. Nice. North Dakota. Another person is
Alan.
in Colorado. Oh, I love it. They're even using your tagline. Hola, mis amigos. That's awesome. All right. Well, if you guys are just now tuning in, my name is Mariana. You're watching Mexico Relocation Guide. And in today's video, we're going to be chatting with Gina and Mark, who moved to Querétaro. Thank you so much for being here, Gina and Mark. How are you guys today?
We're great. How about yourself?
Great.
Doing very good. Very excited you guys are here. Tell people who are watching, where you guys are originally from.
I'm from outside of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
And I'm from Charlotte, North Carolina.
Okay.
And we've lived in basically North Carolina the last 20 years,
basically. But we just moved here from the Asheville, North Carolina area, which is home of the Biltmore Estate, if people aren't familiar. And it's in the Smoky and Blue Ridge Mountains of North Carolina.
So beautiful area.
Very much.
Yeah. Do you miss it?
No.
No.
Not yet. Not yet. You will for some. I mean, there will be things you will miss, right? Like, of course, that's natural. We're all human.
Maybe.
I haven't missed Mountain Dew to the point where I'm ready to pay $20 for a 12-pack yet. But other than that, life's pretty good.
You need to start buying Squirt. That's kind of like the Mexican equivalent of Mountain Dew.
No, yeah. I've known Squirt for long before Mountain Dew. So yeah.
So for anybody watching, what made you guys decide to move to Mexico? Like, how long ago did you decide you wanted to move to Mexico?
Almost 2 years ago. we were visiting. We would annually visit Riviera Maya area because I would go to music festivals at places like Hard Rock Maya Riviera. And we decided this one particular year, 2 years ago, that we needed to get out of the resorts. And I wanted to experience Mexico more realistically, more culturally. So we decided to split up a 2-week vacation and do a resort, an Airbnb, another resort. But specifically, I booked a tour and I wanted an authentic Mexican experience. And I left it up to them to design that tour.
Yeah, we were coming out of Tulum at the time. So, because we did Tulum, PDC, and then Cozumel. And the agency that we booked with, the owner was originally going to do it herself, and then she couldn't. And I would actually say, fortunately, she couldn't, because she sent this gentleman named me.
Oh, looks like they froze for a second. We had this issue when we were connecting everybody who is watching. Their internet is a little bit spotty, so just hang in there. They're gonna come back. There they are. Sorry, Mark, you were saying about
So
you were
yeah,
saying about a resort and your tour.
yeah, and Miguel picked us up and took us to first thing in the morning. Took us to Chichen Itza before the crowd arrived, and he had arranged it with a guide inside Chichen Itza that he knew, and God, shame on me, I can't remember the gentleman's name that was our guide in Chichen Itza, but the pride that he exhibited in pointing out all of the great marvels that are contained within Chichen Itza. And his chest would just swell when he would point out that when, when the autumn and the autumnal and the vernal equinox occurred, that the snake would come down the side. He would, all of these great advancements that were done and were available long before calculators or anything else. And between this gentleman and Miguel,
we got the tortas. Our first cochinita pibil.
Nice.
Yeah.
So good.
A true Yucatecan dish.
So it that sort of opened our eyes, and then Miguel also took us to a mercado because he had to stop and get some beans for his wife, and I mean, and he took us all over the Yucatan Peninsula for a full day, and we got to see a part of Mexico that you don't see in resort.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And we had a great appreciation of the Mexican culture as far as being inside the resort, how hard they worked, how friendly they were. They always had the smiles on their face. And then we got to see the outside of the resort, and that sort of made us go, okay, here's a culture that is smiling. They talk to one another. They talk to strangers.
They work hard.
They bust their butts.
They value family.
They go to church. Gee, what's missing where we were? Almost all of those.
Yeah.
And so with me coming up upon retirement age, about August of 2021 was when we really started getting serious about moving to Mexico.
Oh, but let me tell you how this happened. I planted a little bug in his ear. I was playing videos on YouTube for months. Look how much this cost. Look what you can do here. And he wasn't saying anything. And we went to a block party in our neighborhood. And out of the blue, he's speaking to a man who lived next door to us, who was from Monterrey. And
Carlos,
and he tells this neighbor of ours, "Oh, we're going to retire in Mexico."
Oh, really? And you're like, "Wait, we are?"
We are? Exactly.
Yeah.
I knew
Which
she
I'm
didn't
sure
need to be
was like
convinced.
your good surprise.
What's that?
I said, I'm sure you were, it was a good surprise. It was
Oh,
not
it
like
was.
you were planning it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we are quintessential planners.
Mhm.
And so this set off the whole for the next 16 to 18 months.
Yeah.
It was almost every day plan, 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 plan. And then we started when Ernie did his Sir Dragon X did his very first or attempted to do his very first live show. He invited us to be one of the guests because he was like he wanted somebody from the States, and he had the connection problem and it never went. But we had an hour and a half of conversation that was an absolute blast, and we floated the idea then, about we're seeing all these YouTube channels and everything else from people who are in Mexico. What would you think the idea would be if we started one on this side to document what we did and what we are going through in the States? And he was like, you got a niche that needs to be filled. Hence, Gringos R Us.
Yeah. But now that we're here,
You
now we're
can
here. Now what?
continue. Yeah, you can continue. You can continue sharing your experience now that you have, that group of people that has started from the beginning and are going to continue following you along. There's still a lot of value in that. So why Querétaro? Like you were looking at the Yucatan Peninsula, it sounds like at some point, or maybe, that was like the first introduction to Mexico for you guys.
Yeah.
But how did you end
Well,
up in Querétaro?
you have to understand that Querétaro is stop one
Of 30,
of 30.
at least.
In the next 4 years, we're going to be going through 30 different cities.
I love it.
Um,
So it's
so
not going to be the end all be all.
no, and what we're going to do is at the very end, out of all of these different locations, we're going to sit down and go. Some of them are probably going to be very self-evident that are not going to make the final list for where we're going to retire. And we got a feeling that at the end, there's probably going to be 5, 6, 7 locations that we're going to have to go this versus this.
Right. Right. So Querétaro made it on the list first, mostly because I heard so many people speaking of Querétaro, like you and Jordan from Tangerine and
Backpacking Brunette.
yeah,
and
Karencita. I mean, everybody was talking about Querétaro. So
Yeah.
the time of year that we're coming, we wanted to pick each location during its worst possible weather.
Yep.
So
Oh,
if we like it during its worst possible time of the year, then we know we're going to love it the rest of the year.
Yeah, like when we go to Merida, it's going to be in the heat of the summer. If we can tell, if we like Merida during the heat of the summer, we know that the winters will be great. So
well, North Carolina gets pretty warm too, right? So maybe it won't be like a full.
Not that warm though.
no, I lived a year in New Orleans, so I know what to expect. And from the people that we have spoken to, even people who grew up in Merida, mucho caliente, and it's going to be New Orleans weather in the summer on steroids. So
Oh, for sure. Because in the States, I mean, everything is air conditioned, right? So you're gonna go where not everything is air conditioned. Not every restaurant has air conditioning. Not every store has air conditioning.
that's if we can tolerate it and love it at its worst, then we'll know that we can love it at its best.
Wicking clothing that wicks, and good deodorant.
Yep, and very light clothing for sure.
Yeah.
And very, very often showering, right? Like
yes. And the other reason that we started with Queretaro, Mariana, was that we had bought your relocation guide, and we knew that we were going to have to be going through the INM process. And so with all of the resources that you had in there, this was the perfect location for us to start because of the time of the year that we were coming down and having the ability to get facilitators and this and that. So it just took all of that weight off our shoulders of being able to go, all right, we can go in, get our residency cards, get all this taken care of, go to, to the airport for the aduana, for extending the tip. And so it just made life very simple all the way around to start out.
Yep.
Yeah, we're very blessed that we have some of the best contacts in Querétaro to refer to our customers. So yeah, definitely, Querétaro is a great city for that reason. Um, so when you actually came to Querétaro and now you're, exploring and this is your first stop, what are your first impressions? Like a lot of people are interested in Querétaro and they hear, that it's clean, it's safe, it has nice weather, huge international airport, right? Lots of things going for it. But what are your impressions now that you're actually in Querétaro?
I would say because we're actually in Zakia, we need a car to get everywhere. And a ride with Uber averages about 200 pesos. But we often have Ubers cancel the ride, probably because they don't want to come all the way out to Zakia.
Yeah.
But we do end up getting one. I don't really like being so far removed from Querétaro, simply because there's nothing really we can walk to as far as mercados or really anything. We can't even walk to the OXXO.
It's a gated community and it's not overly large. So we are sort of almost,
well, we're isolated.
We're pigeonholed.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's nice. And we do like the house we're in.
Mm-hmm.
The area is safe. It is clean. It is secured. But we're shopping at gringo places because that's what's close to us. We're shopping at HEB, or we're going to the Paseo Mall, or sometimes we go up to Juriquilla and go to the Sam's Club or Antea. And that's not a bad thing, but I feel like we're missing the essence of why we're here.
Well, yeah, especially in the handful of times that we have been into Centro, we feel like if we were closer and more involved in Centro, it would have been a lot
rewarding.
That's a very good word for it. Very rewarding.
And I honestly, if we had found a place in Centro where we could pull our car off of the street to park it, I would be walking every day to someplace. I love Centro Histórico. I also like Calesa neighborhood quite a bit.
Yeah, that was very nice.
But that's pretty much the only places we've been to. I would say, yes, it is clean. It is safe. It is vibrant. And I love going on Friday and Saturdays and seeing so many people with children out, and they're out late. Like that would never happen in the United States. Kids go to bed at 8:00 at night.
Right.
People lock their doors at 8:00 at night. They're not downtown congregating with all of their neighbors. And I mean, when we did the Christmas down there, it was amazing. The number of families and smiling children and everything else. It just made you feel good. And we saw the same thing pre-Christmas. We took a little.
Oh, they'll come back right now. You froze there, Gina and Mark. It's a reality of living in Mexico, though. It will vary on where you live. I think Starlink is changing that. Oh, there you guys are.
We're back.
And we have Starlink.
We have Starlink.
Oh, do you really? Okay, so it's actually not improving your internet for you that much anyway.
I was expecting better. Okay, so let's since we talked about Starlink. Starlink has a dish. The dish will automatically track the satellites in the sky, but you have to have a clear view of that sky.
Yep.
And there is an app on the phone, and you take your phone out and you GPS maps these satellites. And it tells you if you're in a good spot or if you need to move your dish. Well, this house, this concrete and rebar house, is blocking about 1/3 of those dishes, those satellites.
Yeah.
So
You
our connection is
on
not really
side.
good. Were we back?
Yeah, we're not looking to give the final review of Starlink, because in 2 weeks when we move, we're going to be putting the dish on to see how it's going to go.
Sorry, we missed all of that.
So are we back?
Yes, you're back. I'll let you know when you cut out.
Okay, so the
But it's
satellite, I
yeah,
was just going to say the satellite should be better in San Miguel de Allende because we have a rooftop terrace and we're going to put the dish on the terrace. But right now it's being blocked by this house partly, so it makes it hard.
yeah. And speaking of houses, is that the reason why you didn't end up moving to the Centro Histórico of Querétaro? Was because you didn't find something that you liked, or you didn't?
Okay. We used Airbnb because
Okay.
we needed short-term rentals. And we had certain criteria that had to be met. We needed a bed that was queen or larger. We needed a place with off-street parking that was secure. We needed high-speed internet so I could work. And there really wasn't a lot. There really wasn't.
And we originally found a perfect location in Calesa. And we booked it, and I think 2 days later, the host contacted us and was very apologetic, said that the house shouldn't have been on the site because they were going to be doing an extensive renovation. So house number 1 was gone.
House number 2,
house number two, we booked, and we really liked everything. And it was just a little bit west and up on top, a little further up the mountain at the end of the Arcos there. But in our zeal to get it, we didn't check about the parking, and it was on-street parking, so we had to cancel that one.
It was on-street parking, and it was downstairs from the house, and we had to haul an entire car worth of things up to the house.
Yeah, that's not going to work out.
2 down.
2 down. Third one, we had booked for months. It was at Latitude, and we had that reservation for, I don't know, 5 or 6 months. And 3 weeks before we arrived, he canceled it for personal reasons.
Oh.
So now we have 3 weeks to find a place, and everything we liked before that we saved is no longer available. So Roddy and Landy, who by this time were now in Houston
from Life with Louie,
they offered to rent us their house. So.
Oh, that's awesome. So that's why you're in Turkey.
Right.
That makes sense.
And so, it helped them out because it gave them a little cash flow versus an empty house, and made it easier for us. So it turned out, short of the location, everything else is perfect.
Yeah.
That's, we just would have liked to have been closer to Centro.
I think that's a great tip for people who are watching to not assume that every house on Airbnb is going to have garage parking. And it's something that is really highly recommended, especially if you're going to leave anything inside your car overnight, like boxes or personal belongings. Super important for you to try to find something that is enclosed and, has either a clicker or some form of security to be able to come in and out of that garage. So I think that's a great tip, and something that if you are looking for a long-term rental or a short-term rental on Airbnb while you look for your long-term rental, that you ask the host before you book it.
Yeah, we actually put it in the filters. So we could filter all this stuff. The only thing we couldn't filter was the size of the bed.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you
for some reason, Airbnb does not allow you to go king size, queen size. No,
And double and matrimonial are very, very, very common in Mexico.
Yeah, talk about that. What have you found in the king or mattress sizes in Mexico that you didn't know before?
Well, we found out matrimonial is probably about the size of a queen, maybe a little bit
No,
smaller.
no,
A
about
little bit
size of a
smaller.
double.
Yeah, it's
And
like
we,
a size, it's like a little bit bigger than a double. It's definitely shorter.
Yes.
So if
Yeah,
you're really tall, you might hang out this out the end.
yeah, we experienced that in Bernal.
Oh, yeah.
We when we were at Ski Upon, we decided, well, you know what? Tomorrow night. Let's just spend the night in Bernal. So we go on Airbnb, and then one place left.
One place, last minute booking.
One, and we went.
Yeah.
It's for a night. No big deal.
One night, they were very clear.
Yep.
Small room, simple room. That mean they were very honest
Yep.
about it. And we got there, and wow, it was like the size of a futon.
Wow.
It
And
was
you're
a
like,
small
well, it's a good thing it's only one night.
Yeah.
And the gentleman who and the staff there were great. They really were. And I was talking to him, and because one of them actually did speak English, and I said, "So you guys got any rooms with king size beds?" Yeah.
And
It was a lot. Oh,
I noticed there was nobody else in the parking lot when I parked the car. So no.
Do you have it? Yeah. No, they didn't have it. Got it.
Went right over top. I actually should have said, "Can we upgrade?"
You need to be uber specific.
Yeah.
Yes. Uber specific and sleep in.
Oh, sleep in. We're still on Mexican time.
No.
Or sorry, we're still on United States time.
What do you mean by that? What do you
in bed at 9 or 10 o'clock at night and up at 5, 6, 7 a.m. and nobody here is up and serving breakfast at that time. Nobody.
Especially we walk and any place.
Anyway, we'll adjust eventually.
Yeah.
So, assuming that you guys find a longer term rental in Centro, is that the plan? Do you guys want to move closer to town so you can be like, within all these things that you want to be within?
We're gone.
Sorry. Yeah, sorry guys.
Okay, so
so we're gonna roll with it.
The question was about the long-term rental.
Yeah, the question is just like long-term. Are you guys planning, like assuming that you're gonna stay in Querétaro longer than just the time that you're renting this house from Louis, or from Rod? Assuming that you're gonna stay longer than that, is that the plan for you guys to be closer to Centro?
Oh yeah.
If at the end of the 4 years we go, yeah, Querétaro is a spot, then yes, we would be, but we got the other 30 cities that we've got to do the tour of because we want to experience as much Mexico as we possibly can, and B, we want to find that ultimate spot that we just go, this is where we were meant to be for the rest of our lives.
Sure. I would say also anything that avoids a lot of driving in a city of this size is desirable. I have not driven much because he wants to do the driving most of the time, and it's getting on his nerves really bad.
It's just so different.
It's different. It's different customs. It's different to expect from people. It's a lot of quick moves and movers happening, and it makes him very nervous. I think.
And then throw in the topes, and then the signs are different, and it's
lots of returnos.
I feel like the dog hunting the squirrel because its head going on a swivel everywhere, trying to keep up with what's all transpiring.
I mean, we've had people in the right-hand lane make left-hand turns right in front of us.
Absolutely.
You got to get used to it. It happens. We've had people in the right-hand lane that we were following who suddenly decided that's where they're going to park, and they just stop. It happens. So it takes getting used to.
And it's not an indictment of the driving style here in Mexico. It's an indictment of the difference between driving in the States and driving in Mexico.
Right. It's what you
Um,
Sure,
use.
yeah.
You know,
What
the
you grew
best,
up with versus what you're thrown in overnight. Yeah,
you
it's
know,
very different.
and I'm sure vice versa. You go north of the border, you're going, whoa. First of all, they drive so much faster north of the border than they do down here. Down here, I mean, fortunately, you know, 40, 50, 60 miles an hour for the majority of the people is fast enough. Unless you
Mhm.
drive a BMW or a Mercedes or an Audi. I've noticed that if you drive one of those cars, they drive a lot faster than everybody else.
Sure.
But it is. I mean, it's a little bit slower, but it's just, you know, the awareness will eventually become second nature, because we watch our Uber drivers and they're just, you know, boom, 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 and I'm sitting here going, I don't know how they do this. You know, I can't. You know, cannot do that yet.
So yes, I would recommend staying closer to town so you can do less driving and more walking.
Yes.
It's just healthier for you mentally and physically.
Yes.
100% agree. And it doesn't matter the age, it doesn't matter the type of car, like just in general, it's a much better experience for you, at least in the first year of living in a foreign country, to just let somebody else drive you around.
Mhm. Yeah.
That way you don't have to be so aware. And that way you can also get to know the area without being so aware of the road rules. That's a great point. So yeah, for anybody watching who's thinking like, why should I live in the central part of town versus the outskirts? Well, you have to be honest with yourself. If you're very nervous behind the wheel, then maybe you should take it easy the first few months that you're in Mexico and let somebody else do the driving, because it's only going to really
Yeah.
enhance your nerves.
And even the drive down from the border does not prepare you for driving in
In the
a city like
In the city.
Monterrey or Queretaro.
Right.
You know, you're on the toll roads. It doesn't take long to adapt to that, the few minor differences. But you get into the cities and you suddenly go, whoa, this is an eye opener. This is different.
For sure. Especially maybe in like San Miguel de Allende where there's not a lot of street lights. So you just have to know which one has the right of way, like on certain corners. And I don't know if you've driven in San Miguel de Allende yet.
Not yet.
Not yet. 2 weeks.
Okay, there you go. Well, then you're gonna find that out soon.
Yes. Of course, we have learned we don't drive at night unless absolutely necessary. You know, like I had to go pick her up from the airport. That's about the only time that we've driven. Well, no, that and we went to dinner at Sonora Grill. Those are the only 2 times we've really driven anywhere at night.
Yeah. So
Otherwise, Uber.
assuming that it's fair to say that you guys drove from North Carolina to Mexico, and what was that like? Like, where, you know, a lot of people say it's not safe. A lot of people say, you know, I wouldn't do it. So what was your experience like?
I never felt unsafe. We had some difficulty initially getting into the country, going through customs.
Bless you, Arnie.
Yeah, thank you for Sir Dragon X for being along with us on that part of the journey, because he was on his way back to Monterrey and he led us through all of that. But what we discovered was that even the customs, the INN people at the land crossings are not well versed in the actual law and the rules of doing a kamhe. And
Yeah.
this gentleman was convinced that it was only 30 days. It had been 29. But anyway, he was arguing, and Sir Dragon X was explaining to him, no, they have 180 days. And eventually he gave in, and he finally did our kamhe process for us there. But then after we got through that and we got the tip and started on our way to Monterrey, again, it was like he was holding our, we were following him. It wasn't until we left Monterrey and started over toward Aguascalientes that we were.
Oh, we lost you again.
We're going again. Okay, we're back. We did see cows and horses right next to the road. So I can imagine, and this was a toll road. So I can
Mhm.
imagine if you're trying to drive at night and you don't see the cow until you hit it. Well, that's the end of your ride. you know, there
It
was
can be
there
very,
was a
very serious.
yeah, there was a dead cow on the side of the road standing next to a live cow. He probably got hit by a truck.
No,
Yeah.
the cow that got hit wasn't standing next to the
Okay,
other
well, you
cow.
know
Yeah,
what I
okay.
mean.
I'm just pointing out that the cow that got hit was no longer standing.
The
But
only
yeah,
thing that made me nervous was we literally were stopped and pulled over at 4 out of 5 checkpoints.
Oh, really?
Yes, yes, there were.
we have South Dakota plates on the car, so it's to be expected. I mean, it really was.
Well, and you
Mhm.
just don't know what they're going to ask. You don't know if they're going to want to search something. We gave them our tip every time we got stopped and found out you don't have to. We were told by the aduana at the airport that the only people that are allowed to really ask you for your tip documentation are federales. But
And
how do we?
you were asked for it by the highway police?
No, no,
No,
we just shoved it at them.
Oh, just giving it to them. Got it.
they're asking us in Spanish, and we're flustered. And here's our tip. Here's a residency card, and look stupid, and it worked every time. But to be honest, though, um, after the second time it happened, the first time was fairly easy because it was close to the border right there. But the second time it happened, the little Spanish I knew enough to answer what the gentleman was asking about. So he was asking about the bolsa on the roof of the car, and what was in it. And I'm going, cosas de cocina y ropa.
Mm,
But when he's asking, I'm and so we drive away, and 30 seconds later, I'm spitting out the words, and Gina's over there, and she's writing it on her phone,
So I could show the next
so she
person.
could show the next one who stopped. And sure enough, the next one we get to, he roll the window down, and she just holds the phone over, and he just busts out laughing and just waves his arm. So, and the fourth out of the last one out of the four that stopped is right outside of Aguas Calientes. Um, he spoke perfect English, and he was like, where are you heading to? We're going to, um,
Oh, I love it. I love it.
So we just
Yeah.
told him where we were going, and we said that we're going to stop for the night in Aguas Calientes. He looked at us, and it was like the next day we're on our way to Queretaro. Have a nice day.
But the ride was uneventful.
Yeah.
Other than the checkpoints,
So
nothing.
the one thing that we did walk away from there going that makes the we go, this would have made a lot of sense. Translate down what your contents of your car, where.
Oh, sorry, Mark. We lost you. You were about to give us a really good tip, and then we lost you. Let us know when you're back. Um, but sorry, guys. And it looks like maybe their internet is just going to be
Come back.
yeah, I know, right? Put that antenna anywhere that it can give you better reception. I said, Mark, you were about to give us a really good tip.
Well, that was we thought about it, and we should have printed out the itinerary of where we were going and everything else in Spanish, so that we could have given the paper to the officers. And what's behind us, we had our car was packed, and we really, really did not want to have to unpack that. So it was clothes, kitchen items, things like that. Personal electronics. And that would have been something we could have just handed, and that probably would have answered 90 to 95% of the questions they could have asked. And the other 5, they probably would have just gone, yeah,
Just go.
go.
Well, there you
So
go. Now you're sharing that knowledge for somebody else who might be making the drive soon. Like, have some of these things pre-translated so that if you
yes,
do get stopped, and you get asked these things, at least you can just point to something if you have no idea what they're asking you.
Right.
And even if you think you've got a modest grasp of Spanish, trust me, when an officer's standing there, he's got his AR-15, you're gonna freeze. It's just,
Yeah.
You're scared.
Okay. You guys plan to basically keep your car? You're gonna, I mean, it sounds like you're gonna be traveling to a lot of different cities, so I assume you're gonna want to keep your car.
Well, that's why we went for temporary residency versus permanent, because that way we could keep the car. We planned out it took us 3 days to plan this whole itinerary. We knew where we were going to end up, and we knew where we were starting in Queretaro, and so we sort of had to keep working the months out and this, massage it and everything else to get the right number of months and stays, because everything is a minimum of 1 month and maximum of 3 months. So,
but the car makes it easier.
The car does make it easier.
There's no way we could do an audio bus and move all this.
No.
Yeah, not with all your belongings anyway.
So, at the end of the 4 years, we go permanent.
Take the car back.
The car, we're going to be able to use the car to get us to where we ultimately want to go, put the stuff in where we're going to stay, and then take the car back to the border, sell it, and then return. And once we got permanent residency, then we can just buy a Mexican car.
There you go. I love it. What's the next city?
San Miguel in 2 weeks.
Ah, okay. Oh, already. That's coming up soon.
Right.
Well, we got here November 20th, so it's coming up on 2 months here.
So how are you guys funding your life? I mean, some people are wondering, can I afford to retire? Can I afford to do what Gina and Mark are doing?
Okay. Well,
I can afford to retire because she isn't.
Basically.
Got it. So Gina, you're still working full time.
Yeah, this was a wing and a prayer.
It worked.
It worked out. I had hoped that it would work out. But basically what happened was I work in healthcare IT. And I used to be a lab scientist for 25 years. And I moved into IT to help support laboratory systems. And I was working for a company that was literally blackballing my ability to find a consulting position.
Yep.
And I do know this, and I could go into a long story about how I know, but multiple
it's been verified.
Yeah, multiple coworkers were experiencing the same things. So I literally resigned. I resigned, and I did not work for about 2 weeks. And then all of a sudden, I started getting consulting position offers. So there you go. There you go.
Yeah.
They were blackballing me until I quit.
That's good. That's great that you were getting contacted by a lot of different opportunities.
Yeah. So I work remotely, and that's what I do is computer IT for healthcare.
So yeah,
I mean, when you went to get your residency, did they give you any grief about you having an online job, or one of you being retired and the other one not?
What happened was I ended up having to be, I had to be the primary applicant. And because we were missing about $200 a month for just a couple of months.
2 months.
And they only go by the last 6 months. So they don't care if most of the year you make it. It has to be the last 6 months. And we were $200 short for 2 of those months for us to both individually qualify. So I qualified as a primary, and he was my dependent. Now, since I was the primary, they did take us individually into the consulate office to be interviewed. They didn't ask him any questions about income, anything, retirement, nothing. But they asked me, probably because I was the primary. And so, and I simply told them that I was a consultant. And they asked me, well, how do you find your positions? And I said, I'm a member of a network of consultants, and I apply for positions as they open up. And that's all they asked. And they were fine with it.
And a good word of advice is we loaded up for bear when we went to the Kansas City consulate. We had 12 months worth of the financials. We had birth certificate, steel marriage certificate. If we had not had the marriage certificate, we would have been in trouble.
But they told us in Kansas City that while you're in the United States, it does not
It
have
does not
to
have to
be
be, but we had,
apostille.
but having the marriage certificate proved the part that they needed to know for me to be able to qualify as a dependent.
Mhm.
So we took way more paperwork than we needed. And we also had to deal with Kansas City was one of the consulates that requires signatures on their
financials. So
they don't care signature.
They really
there
don't.
has to be a signature. We had it. I'd gone to the bank, got them to print. They actually printed them from the bank, stamped them with the teller stamp. And they were like, well, this is all good, but we got to have a signature.
And our bank refused to sign them.
And BOA was like, we don't do that. Our legal department will not allow us to do it.
And we have heard that several banks do that.
We were there
several of them
with another couple that was there on their second visit because they had the same problem.
Right.
And they took it to their tax preparer, who gladly just put a signature on it, and that was acceptable. So
yeah. So the consulate didn't care who the signature was from. It was just they needed somebody to authenticate that the bank statements were truly.
Yeah, it could have been the bank security guard, and I don't think they really cared. It just needed to be a signed document.
Right. So I know a lot of people have discussed this and they get very frustrated about it. You just need to know that. It just needs to have a signature.
And if anybody wants to get the long version of all this, if you go to our site, all these stories are on our channel.
Sorry, Mariana, what were you saying?
Oh, I said, yeah, I know it's very frustrating. It does vary by consulate. Some consulates want them to only be stamped. Some of them want them to just bring a photocopy is fine. Some of them want you to have them signed. Some people have gotten their financial planner to sign it for them. Some people have actually gone to the bank to sign it for them. So there's all kinds of different, strategies, but it does vary by consulate. So if you're watching and you're thinking like, oh God, I can't get that signed by my bank, find out first what your consulate requires before assuming that is the case for you.
Right.
Because Kansas City is its own consulate, and then like the one in North Carolina does its own thing, the one in Florida does its own thing, in Texas, et cetera, et cetera. So anyway, long story short, just find out what your consulate is requiring from you. Well, I know a lot of people are wondering, like, can I afford to live in Mexico? That's really the number one question we get because, as you probably know already, income requirements have gone up for 2023 substantially from 2022. And so it's discouraging a lot of people thinking that, well, if this is what I'm required to make to live comfortably in Mexico, I might not be able to, even if they have that amount that they're requiring in savings. So maybe you can talk about your experience since you're actually not renting something traditionally long term. You're going through Airbnbs. Can you give us a rough idea of what your full monthly expenses are to give somebody an idea if they can do it the way you do?
Well, I'm using an app to track that. And I love this app for that very reason, because I'm able to classify everything. I'm able to categorize it in specific locations, like a large trip, for example. And I just went through and I was a little bit surprised. I thought it was going to be more than it has been. I budgeted approximately $3,000 per month. And we've pretty much been very close to that. We've had some expenses that we typically would not have had, and we've done some things we typically would not have done. For example, Sonora Grill. It's a very expensive place to eat. Not quite as expensive as Ruth's Chris, but it's like the equivalent here in Mexico. So we would not eat out like that all of the time. That just wouldn't happen. Special occasion. So for the time that we've been here, we have spent 77,000 pesos over 6 weeks. And that's going to come out to around $3,800 USD, roughly. But that includes groceries, Uber, entertainment, Utilities, because we're not in an Airbnb at the moment, so we are
Rent.
paying rent and utilities.
Yep.
Toll road amounts. I got to Passe and I reloaded that with 1,000 pesos, things like that. So what it's come out to, if I break up that 6 weeks, it's been about $643 a week, $2,572 a month. I'm under my $3,000 budget.
Now,
And we've been overspending, honestly.
yes,
So,
but to keep that in true numbers, we are not paying Airbnb price for rent, and the utilities are not enough to make up the difference of what it would have cost. I mean, because we were looking in the anywhere from $1,300 to $1,500 a month range for an Airbnb.
Monthly. Mm-hmm.
So that number will be a little bit higher.
yeah.
Yeah.
So it'd
And
probably be very
Airbnb,
close to $3,000.
Go ahead.
Airbnb does tend to be you're paying for the convenience, right, of like having something in the marketplace. So you're paying a high cost for a short-term rental for sure. But you get the convenience, right, of being able to book it online, see other people's reviews, make sure that the host is
Right.
legitimate, right? All these things that you know it's going to have like certain things like towels and things that you don't need to pay.
Yes.
Right.
And all that, again, it's cheaper than a hotel, but it's going to cost you more than a long-term rental. You know, if we want to stay in Queretaro for a year, could we do it at $800 a month? Yeah, we could.
Yeah.
You know, maybe not in Centro, but we could find a place that would be very acceptable for about $800 a month in rent. So got to weigh it out. And with what we're looking to do for 1, 2, and 3 month stays, Airbnb was the only way that was really going to give us what we were looking to do.
Right.
And we just cross our fingers.
This doesn't include any medical or any.
No.
We're just setting that aside as like an emergency fund if in case.
We
at
have,
the moment.
yeah.
We bought Nomad insurance for a temporary fix, to last us the first 6 months. Not an actual plan.
Got it.
It just was, I didn't want to have all this headache right when we were trying to stress and get things organized to come. So I'm like, okay, look, let's just get this for now. And once we have our feet on the ground and we're settling in, we'll go speak to a broker.
Yep.
But we do have Mexican car insurance. I want to say it was less than $500 for the year for full coverage.
Yep.
The Nomad insurance was $1,700 for 6 months total, and it's because
For 2.
It's because he's older, and the older you get, the more it costs. He costs more than me, but they go by age, obviously.
Just older than Gina, Mark. Not old, just older than Gina.
Yeah, just older.
Oh no, it's old. You know, this grade did not just materialize because I put it on for the bottle. No, I earned all that.
Yes, absolutely you did. So are you guys ready for some questions? We have a couple of people that have been watching and they have some questions for you guys. Can I put some questions up for you guys?
Absolutely.
Sure.
All right. There's a lot of comments here, so I'm going to go through them quickly so I can see what are some questions I can bring up for you guys. Would you mind sharing the name of the app again, Gina?
Oh, the app. Yes. The app is called, and I'll show you a picture of it too. It's called Travel Spend. Travel Spend. I don't think it's not. Can you see it in red?
Oh, don't worry about it.
It's called Travel Spend. It's a red app with two maletas, dos maletas.
Got it. I'll put it up on the comments for you guys, so you guys can check the comments for that.
Okay.
What phone plan do you use in Mexico? That's a good one. A lot of people have questions about using their cell phones.
Well, we're on AT&T from the United States, mostly because we have a daughter that was on our plan.
Well, We have three
And
daughters.
we had a daughter on our plan, and we didn't want to kick her off until she could figure out what she's going to do for herself, doing grown-up things. You know, she's 26, and it's time to get her own plan.
Now, in her defense, she was paying her share. She was every month like clockwork. She was sending us her share of the bill. So,
so now she's got her own plan, and we're going to start looking into getting a Mexican plan, and we want to port our phone numbers for the USA for family. I don't really know yet, but I'm thinking Telcel because they seem to have the best coverage nationwide. But we're looking into that. But right now, it's USA's AT&T.
And for those of you who are wondering when they mention pase, what that means, it's basically a toll tag. You can buy it at various different stores throughout Mexico. Usually OXXO sells them if you can get to an OXXO right across the border. And you buy the tag and then you can upload or basically charge it with money online. So
and the downside, not the downside, the one caveat is don't get rid of all your cash because it takes 4 hours for that 1,000 pesos or whatever you put on there to show up onto the transponder.
And it has an app. It has an app where you can trace your funds.
And just for anybody who's wondering, it took us almost 2,000 pesos between what we paid in cash and what we paid electronically to get from Reynosa all the way to Queretaro with the route that we took.
That's very useful. That's about $100 for anybody who's wondering what that conversion is. 100 US dollars, 130 Canadian dollars. Some people are wondering, Dana's saying they're 65 days out of moving down.
Yay, Dana!
Congratulations. Yes, Debbie, you can buy a Mexican plated car with a temporary residency visa. You can buy a Mexican plated car with a permanent or residency, temporary residency. What they are referring to as to why they got temporary is because the difference between permanent and temporary residency is that with temporary, you can get a temporary import permit for your foreign plated car for the amount of time that you have that residency, whereas permanent, you cannot. So the only option you have as a permanent resident is to buy a Mexican plated car or to import the foreign plated, which can be pretty expensive. So a lot of people just choose to buy a car in Mexico, depending on the car, obviously, and depending on the miles and all that.
In your bank account.
All of that.
Yes.
Did you keep your car? So they're wondering,
Yes, we did. What we did is, on paper, we moved to South Dakota. Yes. We took a trip to South Dakota. We got one of the virtual. Actually, again, it's a long story. It's our channel. We have a virtual mailbox and used that and got our driver's license and got the car plated there. Taxes, there are no inheritance taxes, no state income taxes. No pension taxes. So there's some tax benefits. And the biggest benefit is you do not have to take the car back to the state every year to be inspected. So
that means we could keep the car here.
We could keep the car here for the whole 4 years. Right. And when we sell it, we're golden.
You broke up a little bit, but I just want to reiterate some of what you said. So for anybody wondering, they're talking about registering your basic address or your home address in South Dakota to take advantage of some taxes that they have, some tax incentives that South Dakota has, such as, for example, registering your car and not having to pay specific taxes in your state every year. And you don't have to go back to South Dakota to register the car or to update those license plates.
The state inspection. Yep.
So for you guys who are wondering about that, they did a really good video on it, and they have it on their channel. I encourage you to go watch it because it's really good information.
Thanks.
Some people are wondering, and I think this is a really good question. How much stuff did you bring with you to Mexico? How much would you say now that you've been in Querétaro for some time? Do you wish you would have left behind, or do you wish you would have brought with you?
Okay, what I wish I would have brought with me is collagen powder because I'm running out and I haven't found good replacement yet.
Even on Amazon? Oh,
Well,
because it's considered a supplement, so maybe they won't go through customs.
I don't, I don't know. I'll find something eventually. I kind of need it for my knees. I'm getting old too, honey. So,
Uh-huh.
um, things that I wish I would have brought. I'll be honest, I wish I could have brought my 1,400 vinyl records and record player with me. Not possible. So it's in storage until we find a permanent home. Um, there's just no way you can carry that much vinyl around Mexico in a car.
No, I already carried it from the car to the storage unit, and that was as much as I want to carry it for another 4 years. So,
Things that I brought that I
first of all, we bought way too much. I mean, if you look at any of our videos of the drive down, it was packed from the back end of the car to about 6 inches behind our head was solid, and we had a roof bag that was packed. So,
and the reason why we have so much, it's mostly because of me. I have 3 monitors so I can work. We have all of our vlogging equipment. I have art supplies, and I am a professional artist who hasn't been very active lately. And I have a lot of very professional, very expensive art supplies that I was not going to give up. You know, $400 colored pencil sets and things like that. So
Yeah.
all my art supplies are here. And I'm looking around here. Essential oils. Did I need to bring them? I did. I
Yeah.
downsized so many times. I think there was 8 sessions of downsizing before we finally got what we could get in the car, and we still left stuff that we wanted to bring with us.
yeah,
So,
there was some pain that was felt. I mean, we basically, not basically, we had an estate sale after we took the items that we wanted to keep and put them in storage. We sold everything. Everything else was gone. And so, and I kept telling her this is not going to fit, but no. Eventually, we made it all fit.
so we have an SUV. We have a Kia Sorento. We put the seats down. The entire back was full to the point where we had to force the doors shut.
Wow.
And we had a roof bag.
Yep.
That's how much stuff we brought.
Actually brings a good point. When you're driving across Mexico, you ended up staying at what's known as like, a love hotel,
Yeah.
right?
Hey.
So why did you stay there? Give people some context as to why you stayed there and what's the benefit of staying there if you have a car full of things.
Well, it's the obvious benefit, but the other benefit is if you're driving your car, you don't have to unpack it because they have if you find the right motels because they're called motels, different from the hotels. And with the motels, you actually have a garage with a garage door, and so you're able to pull in, put the garage door down, and you're done.
You don't have to unpack it every night.
And that after having done that a couple times in the States, we were like, oh, thank you.
Oh, and if anyone is questioning, my black light is a real black light. And yes, it really does show bed bugs,
Scorpions.
scorpions.
We know it shows scorpions.
Body fluids. I used that black light in both of the auto motels that we stayed in. They were clean.
Very,
very clean. So just because they're a love, just because it's the castle of love does not mean it's not clean. They were very clean.
Yes.
Good tips.
And it's also very affordable.
Yeah. What was the cost for you guys?
I mean, the one in Monterrey cost us 1,000 pesos for the night, and the one
because it was a weekend night.
Yeah, because we were on the weekend. Otherwise, it would have cost us half of that. And the one in Aguas Caliente was 695 pesos for the entire night. So, and the food was great in Aguas Caliente.
Yeah, you like their food? What did you like about the food? Oh, sorry, that's a lot of feedback.
Yeah, they have a rotisserie in the wall. They have privacy. and they put the food in the rotisserie, and that's it.
Well, you put the money in first, so they're getting paid before they give you the food. But yeah.
But it's for private reasons because you can get more than food at these places.
Oh yeah. You can get a lot of objects at these places.
You can get food and lube.
Yep.
Exactly.
Frederick wants to know any regrets. I think we're all wondering, right? People who move to Mexico, but your experience, I mean, I know it's fairly soon for you, but so far, what have been some regrets?
I didn't bring enough cigars. That's
okay.
The only regret I've got.
He's having a hard time finding cigars.
Really?
And
okay.
Everybody wants to sell, Cuban Habanas, and they're $10 to $100 a stick, and we're not in that budget for those types of cigars. He just wants a simple $3 or $4 cigar. And so far, Black Charazo is the only place that we have found, and we have to drive out to their factory to get them. So.
And it's quite a drive for you?
No. It's in Enrique Montes. So that's
kind of an inconvenience.
Yeah, it is. But you know what? A, I'm retired. B, okay. It's a simple little drive over there. So
the only regret I have is I miss my vinyl records. Sorry. Eventually I'll get them back.
Have you thought about maybe muling them down?
We got to have a place to put them because we can't keep moving them from place to place to place. So we have to find the final spot.
Yeah. So that's costing us about $1,000 a year for a ventilated, climate controlled storage unit. It is what it is. But there's no regrets in moving here. No, none at all. We love the people. We love the food. The culture is fascinating, and we're learning new things all the time.
Tell us what other than the people and the food, like maybe some other things that surprised you about your time in Mexico.
Oh, the fireworks.
Okay.
Oh, the fireworks. They will go off sometimes. You don't know why. There's just fireworks, Sometimes it's daytime and people are shooting off the noisy ones, and sometimes it's night and you can see them in the distance. For Christmas, there were a lot of fireworks in the horizon as we looked out from our hill in Zakia. New Year's Day or New Year's Eve, lots of fireworks. I looked out the window, and for the entire 180 degrees that I could see, there were fireworks.
Well, and then Bernal, we're flying the drone off of the roof of the hotel, and it looked like there was anti-aircraft fire going at it on one side because they were firing them off to one side, and we're flying a drone. I'm like, oh, baby, we're getting anti-aircraft. So,
I saw a family, little children and adults, and some older family members walking their suitcases around the neighborhood on New Year's Eve.
Yeah.
Had no idea why. I know now, but that was new and different.
For anybody who's wondering, it's for good luck that you'll get a lot of travel in the future.
Yeah, that was fun.
You walk around with an empty suitcase around your neighborhood, and that's supposed to bring you luck that you'll travel a lot in the future.
Surprises. Mercado in Amelco. We were in the meat area, but
oh, we lost you.
We're back. Are we back?
A little bit. Yeah.
So the Mercado had booth after booth of these people who you think would all be in competition with each other to sell the same items, but they weren't.
No, they were hooting it up, having a good time, laughing with each other. It was great.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Somebody wants to know if you guys have felt lonely at all. And I think this actually doesn't get talked about enough. Moving to a foreign country. Have you felt lonely at all?
No. And I think that's because we can use the internet to stay in touch with people that we care about. And he has daily phone calls from family all the time. I don't so much because my family is very, very small. And really the only people left are my sister you know, our children.
And our children.
So we stay in touch. We were never big phone people anyway. So we stay in touch with social media.
You aren't a big phone person.
Okay,
some of us are always on the phone.
Some of us had dysfunctional families growing up.
Yeah. Some of us don't want to stay in touch with some family members.
No. So no, we don't feel lonely. My friends and everyone, we stay in touch on Facebook. We were always kind of homebodies anyway. So to be honest, this is the most adventure we've had for years.
Well, and of course, the reason I'm on the phone is because I don't do social media.
Right.
If somebody wants to talk to me, they're going to have to talk to me, because it's too easy nowadays to misinterpret something that's written. You can hear the inflection in the voice, and so
Well, I think we might also touch on how a lot of expats will come to a foreign country and they might be lonely because they feel very isolated. Maybe they don't speak the language. And we will be honestly fair here and say, we don't speak the language. And we are also somewhat isolated out in the suburban area of Zakia. And we muddle our way through every day when we encounter someone. Sometimes we're very grateful if they can speak a little English, though we never expect it. I've got Google Translate out all the time. I've got Google Lens out all the time. But
I made it home last night with the Uber driver.
Yes, you did. He did really well.
Talked Spanish the whole way home.
I love it.
That little bit of language isolation can make people feel lonely, and I understand that. And I want to get a tutor. You know, these language apps and programs, they are a help, but they're not.
They teach vocabulary. Yeah. They're great for learning vocabulary. In speaking with the Uber driver last night, I butchered syntax more times than I know what to do with. Next week we're going to see un amigo vivía in San Gil. And I went, oh, no, that's not right, because he didn't used to live there. He still lives there. But I mean, so
he understood you.
And that's the beauty, is that so many of the people, be it from the OXXO clerks to the Uber drivers to the people who work in the grocery stores, if you make an attempt, they will help you every.
Yep. Lost you, but I can't speak to this. I think it's very important that you some people ask, right, like, why some expat cities versus some more traditional Mexican towns. Oh, you're back.
We're back. Oh, technology.
I love it. I was just talking about like why some cities are more popular than others with a lot of foreigners, particularly English speaking foreigners. And it's because of that. Because especially if you're living, if you're moving by yourself, it can actually be a softer landing when you don't have to hurry to learn the language so quickly, right? Because there's so many things going on. There's meetups, there's events, there's people who speak your language. So all those things can help. And I think it's just personal preference too.
It does, but I also think that we put pressure on ourselves because we want to assimilate as quickly as possible, because it's we're a guest. We are guests in the gracious and beautiful country. We should do, and I feel it as a personal responsibility to try and get there as fast as I can.
Yeah, I love that, Mark. I think that's important. I think it's important for anybody who is thinking about it. I love it. Well, I want to be mindful of your time, and we're just over an hour. So I want to thank you guys so much for being here. I know we had a little bit of technical difficulties, but it was actually fine. And I'm going to put their channel up on the comments for you guys to go check them out. Gringos R Us. They have A lot of great information. They're really fun to watch. They have some funny videos, some educational videos, and everything in between. So I encourage you guys to go check them out. YouTube.com/Gringos, the letter RUS. So Gina and Mark, thank you so much for being here. Any closing words for anybody who's watching you guys?
Well, I think I want to say thank you so much for graciously hosting us on the chat. And thank you to everyone who contributes to our community, because, you know, that's what makes it so fun.
Yeah.
If you are thinking about coming to Mexico, absolutely. The Complete Mexico Relocation Guide is the bomb. And we are using it. We use it right now while we're using it.
Yeah, we used it on both sides of the border. We used it before we came, and now we're still. So yeah, it's very good.
I would say, don't be afraid to come.
No.
You know, even I would say get your temporary residency, even if you're not ready to move.
Yep.
Just get it. You have it. You're done with that. And then just come on small trips and try it out.
It's not going to get cheaper. I mean, if it's in the back of your mind that this is a possibility, do it. Because you're actually going to save money in the long run, because 2023 is going to be cheaper than 2024.
More expensive.
No, 2023 is cheaper than 2024.
Sorry.
And at the rate it's going, 2025 is going to be $5,000 a month.
Yeah.
If they continue on this.
Hopefully there's a reform that changes that formula and it can allow more people to apply. But
oh, no, and I agree they're going to have to eventually reform that whole formula. But based on the past couple of years, that's the number.
I just say, if you want to do it,
do it.
Just do it. Come and try it out. Visit. You're not losing anything. If you don't like it, you just don't renew.
And you get a couple of good Mexican vacations out of it. What is wrong with that?
Absolutely. If you're interested in knowing what those income requirements are, I'm going to put them up on the comments for you guys. They're for 2023. So you guys know exactly what we're talking about when we're mentioning some of these things. And you don't have to live in Mexico to remain a resident. You just have to come to actually renew. So that's the most important thing. If you're a temporary, if you're permanent, that's indefinite. So you don't have to renew. But yes, agree with you guys so much. If you're thinking about doing it, do it sooner than later, because you never know what's going to change next year.
Yep.
Well, thank you guys so much. I hope you enjoy the rest of your weekend, and I hope there's not so many fireworks this weekend.
There will be.
It's part of the life.
You
gotta learn to flow with it.
I'm going to Sally's to get me some pretty hair color, so there'll be fireworks.
Oh, there you go. There you go.
Hi.
Thank you, Mark and Gina.
Thank you, Mariana.
Hasta luego. Bye, everybody. Thank you so much for being here.